Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello. Really? Doesn't sound very loud. I hate that I have to hold it. Anyway. I must have known you. I was still working, so that's interesting. I was still working on Tornado. I left in 1994. So I wouldn't have been hanging around the library. It was later. When did you move into this building? 86. So I started coming to the library. But I knew about it. I think I went there once. It was fun upstairs. It was fun. It was nice. We'll start in a few minutes. I'm just going to wait for everyone to get seated. No, it's not. The master technician will fix that. I just show up and do my bit. It looks like, yeah. Oh, I don't know. Maria, it's very low. They can't hear me. Oh. I'm just wait for everyone to get seated. No. Yeah. Oh. This is a little bit of a oh, okay. There's some difficulty of where she's going to sit. What? No, yeah. Sorry, I'm just going to wait to get started till everyone has a seat. I think they're going to go sit in the back. I feel like I'm going to have to shout into this microphone. Wow. Oh boy. So we're going to get started. I apologize in advance. That seems to be the maximum volume of the microphone. So hopefully you all can hear me. Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of You've Got to Read This. This is our summer edition. My name is Jennifer Eisman. I've been joined by my wonderful colleagues, Danielle Belanger, our library director, you all know, Janine West, and colleague Mairead Stevenson at the end. We have a great list of books lined up for you, or actually we think it's a great list of books lined up for you. So we hope that we'll be able to help you find your next summer read. I just want to remind everyone, we are recording on Zoom. Yeah, we are recording on Zoom, and you'll be able to go back and watch it if you want to rewatch this. This year, we're going to change up our program a little bit. So we have 3 parts. The first part is our coming soon titles. So we hope to hook your interest right away. These titles are on the back side of your handout. They say coming soon. And they either are just being published or just about to be published sometime over the summer. And the second part is our main part, it's the main list of titles. This is the part that you're used to, and it's the more lengthy part of our presentation, and that's on the other side of your handout, and it's just called You've Got to Read This. And part 3 is completely new, and we hope to have your participation as our audience, so we can talk to you about that at the end. We have bookmarks for you, special bookmarks. So I'm going to get things started with part 1, which is our coming soon titles. As I mentioned, these titles have a lot of buzz around them. They're on a lot of people's watch list, and people are talking about them, so we want you to keep your eyes open for them. My first title is called Villa Coco, which is due out June 6th or June 9th. And this book is from Andrew Sheen Greer, who is the Pulitzer Prize winning author of the book Less. And it showcases the author's wit, sophistication, and deep knowledge of focaccia in this tale of a young man who takes an unspecified job with a charismatic elderly baroness at her crumbling villa. At her crumbling Tuscan villa, actually. This is a most anticipated book of the year by many people. People, Time, Esquire, Oprah Daily, LitHub, and Seattle Times. So there's already seems to be quite a lot of interest surrounding this title. My second coming soon title for you is An Infinite Love Story by Chanel Cleeton. And this one is due out July 7th. And for those of you who've heard me speak before, I've often spoken about her work. When an astronaut is lost in space, his wife relives their epic love as she attempts to unravel what truly happened to him. This is a sweeping love story set against the backdrop of the 1960s space race from the New York Times bestselling author of The Lost Story of Eva Fuentes. Reviewers are already saying that Chanel's incredible range as a writer is on full display in this dazzling novel that is a powerful testament to women claiming their voices. Readers will not want to miss this one either. So I'm going to turn it over to Danielle to do her coming soon picks.
Thank you very much, Jen. I was also looking at Villa Coco, but you were faster. My 2 titles that I've chosen for coming soon titles that I think you should also be excited about. The first one is A Fortune of Sand by Ruta Sepetys. Set against a time of upheaval, this novel follows lives shaped by displacement, resilience, and the search for identity, revealing the human cost of conflict and survival. A glamorous 1920s Detroit setting meets a gripping mystery as a young woman enters an elite arts program where something feels dangerously wrong. For fans of authors like Kristen Hanna or Anthony Doerr, Ruta Sepetys offers powerful, emotionally driven historical fiction. That's my first pick. And my second one, and that one is out, either it just came out or any day now in May. Whistler by Anne Patchett is out, I believe, in July. It's one of the most anticipated books of the season. A chance encounter brings a woman face to face with a long-lost father figure, opening up a moving story about memory, love, and the moments that shape a life. It's being touted as a quiet, emotionally powerful novel about connection, second chances, and how even brief relationships can leave a lasting imprint. For fans of authors like Barbara Kingsolver, Elizabeth Strout, and Jhumpa Lahiri, Anne Patchett offers richly layered, character-driven fiction. Watch out for Whistler.
Thank you, Danielle. So first, I just want to say, if you haven't read Less yet, the author of Villa Coco, do so. That is an incredibly engaging book. And also Chanel Cleeton. Like, I took you up on the Eva Fuentes book, and I read that. And again, really, really good read. So I'm happy to see her books on your list.
That one marks departure from her usual.
Oh, interesting. And of course, I'm a big, big lover of Anne Patchett. So I'm very jealous that you took that book. So I am going to talk about Land by Maggie O'Farrell. So a father-son duo, a dog, and a buried treasure. These were the elements that really drew me to want to read this book that is, I think, coming out in June. It's set in 1865 Ireland in the aftermath of the Great Hunger, and this spellbinding tale follows 10-year-old Liam and his father Thomas as they set off on an unforgettable journey shaped by the land, their shared history, and the hope of something more. This is a highly anticipated literary release of the season. Many early readers are calling it one of her best, a masterpiece, 5-star award winner. Um, I'm very excited about it. I loved Hamnet. I'm sure many of you either read the book, watched the movie. I also read the marriage portrait by her, which was really interesting. So I can't wait to read her newest book. My second pick is The Young Will Remember by Eve J. Chung. And this is also, I think, coming out in July. This is historical fiction. It's set during the Korean War, and it follows a Chinese-American journalist who is shot down behind enemy lines and ends up entangled with a group of women who are trying to survive and protect each other amid the chaos of war. So the story focuses on survival, identity, and the hidden roles that women play during conflict. So it's already getting a lot of attention for being very readable, emotional, and grounded in wartime history. I loved her previous book, The Daughters of Shandong. That was a real favorite of mine last year, so I'm also looking forward to reading this one. So those are my two picks.
Okay, hello. So the first book I'm looking forward to this summer is Rich Girl Summer by Lily Chu. I already love her books, so I know I'm going to like this one. She writes funny, heartfelt, and engaging books with engaging characters. I also like to support her because she is Canadian. She's written The Stand-In, The Comeback, and The Takedown, which I believe I've spoken about here before. This one follows a woman who unexpectedly gets pulled into the glamorous world of wealth and luxury while also trying to figure out what she really wants from life and relationships. It's coming out in July. It's a perfect summer beach read, light and fluffy. The second book I want to talk about is the one I am most looking forward to 2026. It's a sequel. I spoke about the first one in the series last time we had this program, and you all may remember if you were here. It brought a little tear to my eye. That was The Curious Kitten of the Chebineco Kitchen. This is the sequel, so The Calico Cat at the Chebineco Kitchen. That one is it's out now. It's new to the library, and of course, it's just following more heartfelt stories from the Chebineco Kitchen. Those are my two picks.
Thank you, Mairead. So now we're going into part 2. You can flip over your handout if you haven't already. This is the main part of our program that I know you all look forward to, where we discuss at length the titles that we've chosen. To be clear, these titles have already been released and or published, and we have all of them. Yes. So my first selection is this one right here. This title that I have here, the purple one, is The Jilted Countess, which is a poignant novel based on a true story by Loretta Ellsworth. The Jilted Countess brings 1948 Minnesota to life through the eyes of Rosa Menzaros, a young Hungarian countess whose world has been reshaped by war. The book is inspired by a real Minneapolis Star newspaper story, imagining Rosa's journey from war-torn Europe to St. Paul, Minnesota, where she arrives expecting to marry the American GI who once promised her a future. Instead, she finds herself alone, disoriented, and facing deportation unless she can forge a new path. Determined to stay in America, Rosa turns to a newspaper columnist, Cedric Adams, to help her find a suitable husband. Sharing Rosa's story and her picture, Adams makes a special plea to his military readers, and the response is overwhelming. 1,800 World War II veterans respond: cash, flowers, telegrams, love letters, you name it. they receive it. And you're probably thinking, wow, it sounds like a 1948 version of The Bachelorette. That's exactly what happened. As I mentioned already, this novel is based on true events. Ellsworth first read about the Countess in an archived news story in 2015 by journalist Kurt Brown, who wrote an article in the Minneapolis Star Tribune. In it, he appealed to his readers to email him if they knew what happened to this woman who made a big splash in 1948 and then all of a sudden disappeared. When she heard about the story, the author of our book, Loretta Ellsworth, tried to discover what happened to the Countess. She wondered how her life turned out. How does a countess, a Hungarian countess, find life after that life in a small town Minnesota? Did she find happiness? Were they happily married? Rosa herself is a compelling narrator, wide-eyed yet resilient, caught between youthful romanticism and the hard-earned maturity that comes from surviving wartime loss. Readers will empathize with her and others of her time, as the life she once knew was robbed from her, taken away by the Nazi regime, leaving her penniless, and then again when she is stranded in a foreign land, heartbroken and alone. This is a captivating and unusual tale of love, loss, finding yourself, and creating your destiny. The Jilted Countess examines the meaning of marriage, the American dream, and what it takes to face your demons while searching for happiness. Remember, if you do pick it up, please, 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 again, you've heard me say this before, I'm a big fan of this. Read the author's note at the back. It explains a lot about the story. It is very, very interesting. I highly recommend this book for fans of authors like Alison Pataki. My next title I wanted to share, I'm super excited about this one, is The Daughter of Egypt by Marie Benedict. This is an instant New York Times bestseller, a USA Today bestseller, and an indie bestseller. The narrator alternates between the 15th century BC and the early 1920s. In the 1920s, we follow Lady Evelyn, who's the daughter of Lord Carnarvon. You all know who he is, the renowned patron of Egyptian archaeology. She is deeply fascinated with Egyptian history. However, Evelyn's true obsession lies not with the boy king Tutankhamun, but with the lost pharaoh Hatshepsut. As she navigates the rigid expectations of post-World War British society and the rising tides of Egyptian nationalism, Evelyn risks her reputation and her father's favor to uncover the truth about the woman history tried to forget. In the 15th century BC timeline, we get the captivating story of Hatshepsut as she rises to power, going from princess to queen to regent, and finally to her controversial role as one of the few female pharaohs. Hatshepsut's character reveals a strong woman who is highly intelligent and creative in navigating the world she lives in. Was she obliterated from history because of that, or because she was a woman? Both Evelyn and Hatshepsut seem to share a common story of womanhood. Every obstacle Evelyn navigates in the 1920s, whether that be the dismissal of her expertise by academic men or the pull between personal ambition and societal expectation, finds its ancient counterpart with Hatshepsut. And here, perhaps, is the most elegant point of the story. Clearly, nothing has changed over time as much as we'd like to believe. The author doesn't shy away from the ethical complexities of 1920s archaeology, touching upon the rights of a nation to own its own history versus the colonial drive to export artifacts. This adds a layer of modern relevance and intellectual depth that elevates the book beyond just a standard period piece. You're going to find that Benedict's writing is beautifully immersive. You can smell and feel the dust from the Valley of the Kings, the heat of the Egyptian deserts. It actually feels like you've walked into another time and place. Propelled by high adventure and deadly intrigue, Daughter of Egypt is the story of two ambitious women who lived centuries apart in a male-dominated world. Both were forced to hide who they were during their lifetimes, yet ultimately changed history forever. This tale is fascinating and is also great escapist fiction. My last title today is a complete departure from the titles I normally recommend. I don't know if anyone has heard about this book, but it's called The Midnight Show by Lee Kelly and Jennifer Thorne. If you are looking for a book to devour in one sitting, this is it. In the 1980s, women were not supposed to be funny. But when a group of college improv comedians gets the chance to join a new late night show called The Midnight Show, it's Lillian Martin that stands out. And of course, if this sounds reminiscent of SNL, it probably is. The show is a runaway hit and the cast is thrown into the spotlight. Suddenly, they're skipping the line at the city's hottest clubs and posing on the cover of Rolling Stone. Lillian, in particular, seems destined for big things until one night in winter in lower Manhattan, she disappears. Was she a victim of her own success? Was she a victim of a mugging? Or perhaps she was killed by someone in her own inner circle. 40 years later, Lillian's disappearance has never been solved. But when a budding journalist named Madeline Cohen, looking to examine Lillian's story from a modern lens, begins asking questions, she stirs up decades-old drama, as well as tightly held secrets some comedy legends would rather stay buried, of course. This celebrity mystery is told in a mixture of different mediums. So it's not your straight fiction. It's told, yes, there are paragraphs that you're used to reading just one after the other, but it's also told from the perspective of messages, email messages, texts, and interview transcripts. So this format makes the reader feel like you're peeking into research for a magazine that's done in this very gossipy, dishy type of way. So it's very, very unique format. The book captures each voice, making each feel distinctive and believable. The pacing is brisk, with each new perspective building both tension and character depth. What makes this book really comes to life isn't just the mystery, but the atmosphere that the authors conjure up, from the dingy improv stages to the glitzy, exclusive nightclubs. There is this central theme of how women in comedy are treated in a male-dominated world. How far do women have to go, and what does it cost them when they do, especially when the rules were written by and for men, with women often stereotyped. The authors neither romanticize nor vilify this world. Instead, they render it in all its complexity, allowing you, the readers, to experience all its allure as well as its darkness. Dark, dazzling, and impossible to put down, The Midnight Show captures the cutthroat world of live TV and the secrets festering just off stage. This book is perfect for readers of Taylor Jenkins Reid. So if you've ever read her before, you're going to like this one too. And those are my picks.
Thank you very much, Jen. So I will discuss my picks now. I'm the second column down. Go Gentle by Maria Semple is my first selection. If you enjoy novels that are witty, a little chaotic, and deeply human, my first pick is Go Gentle by Maria Semple. It's a wonderful one to discuss. At the center of the novel is Adora Hazard, a divorced middle-aged philosopher living on the Upper West Side of New York City. She's carefully designed her life around one guiding idea: that true happiness comes from wanting only what you have already. And for a while, it works beautifully. She has her teenage daughter, her independence, and her intellectual life. And perhaps most delightfully, she has what she calls her coven. Now, this is not a supernatural coven. It's much better than that. The coven is a group of like-minded women who all live on the same floor of her building. They are intelligent, independent, mostly divorced women who have made a very intentional choice to age together, to support one another, and to build a kind of chosen family. They share food, they split groceries, they swap theater tickets, and pool resources in practical, everyday ways. But more importantly, they share something less tangible: solidarity. In a world that often expects women in midlife to quietly recede into the background, this group refuses to disappear. They are funny, opinionated, generous, sometimes flawed, and very real. The coven becomes one of the emotional anchors of the novel. It's where the complexity of female friendships at this stage of life become the most important. There's support, but there's also friction. There's vulnerability, and there's resilience. And it raises a subtle but powerful question. What if we reimagined aging not as something to endure alone, but as something to build together? Of course, this is a Maria Semple novel, so things do not stay calm for too long. Adora's carefully controlled life is thrown completely off balance when she meets a mysterious stranger. That single encounter begins to unravel everything she thought she knew about herself. Suddenly, the calm, philosophical life she's constructed, gives way to a story involving romance, possible espionage, art scandals, and long buried secrets. But even as the plot becomes increasingly wild, and it really does, the emotional center remains grounded in relationships. We see her relationship with her daughter, her evolving sense of self, and importantly, her connection to the coven. Because her life spins into chaos, the coven remains a touchstone. It is a reminder of who she is and who she might still become. At its heart, Go Gentle is a novel about midlife reinvention. It's about questioning the stories we tell ourselves, especially the ones that keep us safe but small. It also explores the tension between wanting control over our lives and the undeniable pull of desire, connection, and change. But if readers walk away remembering one thing, a part that it was an Oprah Book Club pick not very long ago, it may very well be this idea of the coven. This witty, practical, deeply moving portrait of women choosing each other, building community, and redefining what it means to grow older. It's a novel that is at once funny, thoughtful, and surprisingly adventurous. And it invites us to ask, what might our own coven look like? So that's my first pick. My second pick is When We Were Brilliant by Lynn Cullen. This is a historical fiction title, which offers a very different kind of reading experience, but it still would appeal to the same audience. I would say this audience sitting here right now. This novel takes us back to the early 1950s and centers on an unexpected and deeply compelling relationship between two real-life figures, Marilyn Monroe, still in her early career, and documentary photographer Eve Arnold. At the heart of the story is the moment of meeting. Norma Jean Baker, who will soon become Marilyn Monroe, approaches Eve Arnold with a bold idea. She wants Eve to photograph her, not as the stereotypical Hollywood starlet, but as a complex, intelligent woman. From that point on, the novel traces how their professional collaboration evolves into a nuanced friendship. As Marilyn's fame grows, the two women continue to shape each other's lives and careers, navigating ambition, identity, and the pressures of a male-dominated entertainment industry. What makes this book especially appealing to historical fiction readers is the way Lynn Cullen blends meticulous research with imaginative storytelling. She focuses on the human side of well-known figures, revealing the person behind the legend. In this case, readers are invited to see Marilyn Monroe not just as the cultural icon that we all know, but as a woman trying to define herself on her own terms. At the same time, Eve Arnold's perspective offers insights into the challenges faced by women pursuing serious artistic careers in the 1950s. The novel is also immersive in its setting. It captures the atmosphere of mid-century America, from film sets and publicity tours to quieter behind-the-scenes moments. This attention to detail helps bring the period vividly to life, which is something that historical fiction fans like me will often look for. Another key appeal is the focus on women's stories, particularly stories that have not always been told in full. Cullen is known for highlighting overlooked or misunderstood figures from history, and here she explores both Marilyn's vulnerabilities and Eve Arnold's groundbreaking role as a female photojournalist. The emotional core of the novel lies in its exploration of identity. Both women are, in different ways, trying to reconcile who they are with how the world sees them. The tension between public image and private self is a central theme, and it gives the story a relevance that extends beyond its historical setting. For readers who enjoy character-driven historical fiction, this book offers a richly developed relationship, and a deep emotional arc. For those interested in cultural history, it provides insight into Hollywood, photography, and the evolving role of women in mid-20th century. Overall, When We Were Brilliant will appeal to historical fans who appreciate stories that bring famous figures to life in new ways, that foreground women's voices, and that combine historical authenticity with emotional depth. It is both a portrait of a moment in time and a thoughtful exploration of friendship, ambition, and self-creation. So that was my second pick. And my last pick, last but not least, is The Chambermaid's Key by Genevieve Graham. You've heard me select other novels of hers in the past. I like her very much. Finally, I will wrap up with hers, a compelling choice for readers who enjoy atmospheric settings, layered mysteries, and strong character-driven storytelling. This novel is set primarily in 1929 Toronto and introduces Rosie Ryan, a young woman determined to leave behind a difficult life in one of the city's poorest neighborhoods. When she secures a job as a chambermaid at the elegant Dominion Hotel, it feels like her opportunity to step into a completely different world, one defined by wealth, refinement, and possibility. But it quickly becomes clear that beneath the hotel's polished surface, something far more complicated and dangerous is taking place. The hotel is filled with influential guests, quiet transactions, and hidden relationships, and Rosie soon finds herself drawn into a web of ambition, loyalty, and betrayal. When a murder occurs, the stakes rise dramatically, pulling her deeper into a situation she never could have anticipated. One of the novel's most engaging features is its dual timeline. Alongside Rosie's story in 1929, the narrative shifts to a present-day perspective, where renovations at the same historic hotel begin to reveal long-hidden secrets. As pieces of the past start to surface, the connection between the two timelines gradually unfolds, adding a strong element of suspense and discovery. Graham is especially effective at creating a vivid sense of place. The contrast between the hotel's luxury and the harsher reality of the surrounding city is sharply drawn, highlighting social divides and the pressures faced by those trying to improve their lives. This tension between worlds gives the story both emotional weight and historical depth. There's also a strong atmosphere of mystery throughout the novel. Hidden spaces, guarded conversations, and unanswered questions create a sense that something is always just a little out of reach. That feeling of uncovering what lies beneath the surface keeps the narrative engaging and adds to its overall momentum. At the same time, the story is very much grounded in character. Rosie is a determined and relatable protagonist, and her journey is shaped not only by the events around her, but by her own choices, values, and desire for independence. Watching her navigate a world that offers both opportunity and risk gives the novel a strong emotional core. The book also explores broader themes such as social mobility, identity, and the cost of ambition. Rosie's experiences reflect the challenges of trying to move between different social worlds and the compromises that sometimes come with that effort. Overall, The Chambermaid's Key will appeal to readers who enjoy richly detailed historical settings, dual timelines, and stories that balance suspense with emotional depth. It offers both an engaging mystery and a vivid portrait of a transformative moment in Canadian history. Those are mine. Thank you.
Okay, so my first pick this afternoon is The Astral Library by Kate Quinn. I'm sure you all know of Kate Quinn. So, The Astral Library is a love letter to readers in the transformative power of stories, my favorite subjects. Unlike Kate Quinn's more familiar historical fiction novels, where she brings overlooked women of history to life, The Astral Library takes a totally different direction. Here, the unsung hero is an entirely fictional and delightfully magical librarian who insists librarians should be really called book dragons because they are the guardians and the protectors of stories. The novel celebrates the importance of libraries, the transformative magic of books, the idea that stories can save, connect, and heal people. And while it has all the wonder and imagination of fantasy, it also captures the deep emotional comfort that readers and libraries can provide. The novel follows Alexandria, nicknamed Alex Watson, a very lonely and book obsessed young woman. She's named after the ancient Library of Alexandria, who discovers a hidden magical library through a portal in the Boston Public Library. So, this is not an ordinary library. Within its walls, the readers can actually physically enter the worlds of classic literature. So you could actually go into the world, let's say, of Jane Eyre. And you can interact with all the characters inside the book. Really? So, and this is a door that's only available to select readers. It's not available to everybody. And it's really for readers who are in some kind of desperate need. So for Alex, she was abandoned as a child, and now she's in real dire straits financially. Um, the Astral Library becomes both a refuge and a place of purpose. But like all fantasies, a battle ensues between the forces of good and the forces of evil. The library is under threat from a very mysterious force that wants to destroy it, and Alex must work with a very unlikely cast of allies to try and protect it and its very worthy and interesting librarian. So what makes this book so compelling is really the way it blends fantasy with adventure and very, very deep emotion. Kate Quinn creates a vivid atmosphere filled with wonder, nostalgia, and suspense while exploring all sorts of themes, including loneliness, belonging, the importance of imagination. And readers who love books about books, and I'm thinking of The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. There's so many books about books these days. Will especially appreciate the rich literary references woven through the stories. So all the great classics are and you get to enter them through the characters. Another standout aspect of is Quinn's celebration of storytelling itself. The novel asks why stories matter, how they shape us, how they shape memory, and also the hope that they can give us. The novel also celebrates the importance of libraries, of course, and the transformative magic of books, and the idea that stories can save, they can connect, and they can really heal people. The characters are really, really interesting characters because they're flawed. They're not perfect characters. They've got all sorts of different emotions and come with all sorts of baggage. And while it has all the wonder and imagination of fantasy, it also captures the very deep emotional comfort that readers and librarians and libraries can provide in the real world. So, as a librarian, I love the Astral Library for its enchanting celebration of books, libraries, and the quiet magic of librarianship. And it perfectly captures the sense of wonder and refuge that I feel libraries can offer. So highly, highly recommend it. I think you'll fall in love with Alex and particularly the dragon book librarian. Who's really, really interesting character. So my next book is The Road to Tender Hearts by Annie Hartnett. Annie Hartnett's Road to Tender Hearts is a beautifully, very quirky and emotionally rich novel that combines humor with grief and redemption in very, very unexpected ways. The story centers on PJ Halliday, who's in his 60s. He's a former lottery winner of $1 million plus, whose life Unfortunately, though, has unraveled due to alcoholism, regret, divorce, and years of emotional distance from all the people that he loves. So when PJ learns he has just been awarded custody of two young children, and his ex-wife is about to go off to Alaska with his best friend, who she's about to marry, he decides it's time for him to take a bit of a road trip. And the road trip is actually to connect with this high school sweetheart who he hasn't had any contact with for 50 years, and who has he's read an obituary where she has just lost her husband and feels that she is now available. So they go off. The journey quickly becomes a chaotic series of misadventures. Joining him are his estranged daughter, the two orphan children, and a cat named Pancakes. And this cat has a very uncanny ability to predict death. So if the cat comes near you, beware, because it means that you're about to. So, what could have easily become a purely comic setup instead develops into a very moving exploration of family and forgiveness and all the ways that people carry their pain. Hartnett excels at creating very eccentric characters who initially seem very quirky or absurd, but gradually reveal profound emotional depth. And every member of the traveling group is struggling with some kind of loneliness or grief. And the road trip really becomes a way for them to rediscover some kind of connection and some sort of tenderness. And one of the greatest strengths I've felt is the author's voice. She has this very rare ability to balance dark humor. Like a lot of the book is like, oh, it's sad, but it's on the other hand, you are sort of laughing along with some of the crazy things that they get into. And she's also so sincere. So the dialogue can become quite eccentric one moment and feel very emotionally devastated the next. But the author avoids sentimentality by allowing all of her characters to remain flawed, very, very stubborn, and deeply, deeply human. The novel also captures the unpredictability of real life, life's heartaches and pains, fears and anxieties, and how hard it is to navigate it all, particularly as a parent. Um, and I also would encourage you, like Jen, even though this isn't historical fiction, the author does have a little note at the end, and it really explains why she decided to write this book. And that in itself is so revealing and so emotionally, it just draws you in. The book is funny, it's melancholic, it's an unexpectedly hopeful, particularly at the end. It's a novel with a very intensely satisfying ending that lingers with readers long after the final page. I really love this book for its very quirky characters and its blend of humor and heartache. It reminded me of A Man Called Ove or Eleanor Oliphant is completely fine. Those books that have these very, very quirky but sad characters that end up finding some kind of redemption or meaning later on. And so I highly, highly recommend you try this book. My final book today is Good People by Patmina Sabat. So this is a literary mystery and a family drama about the Afghan American community that is living in Virginia, and it's centered on the Sharaf family. Um, I picked up the book and I went to the first page and I thought, oh no, I'm not going to read this book, and put it aside. And I put it aside for about a month and then I went back to it. The reason I put it aside, again, it seems to be the trend now is these very, very short chat that aren't really chapters. They're kind of snippets. They're in this case, the book is really filled just with testimonials. There's no real chapter development. There's no real plot development. It's really about different characters commenting on events. Some of the characters are neighbors, some of them are teachers, all from very different walks of life. Some of them are members of the Afghan community itself. I really didn't think I was going to like this, but I can't tell you how quickly I was pulled into this story. And it doesn't even seem like it's a story because it's not written like a traditional novel. But I could not put this book down. I think I read it in 2 sittings. It is so engrossing. Anyways, each character in the book offers a very, very different perspective on what is going on. And gradually, what us as readers, we realize that everybody has an opinion. Everybody is protecting something, whether it's their own family, their reputation, grief, or their own version of the truth. And you don't know who is actually telling the truth, who is telling their own version of the truth. It's very, very interesting. So, one of the most powerful aspects of the novel is its portrayal of the Afghan immigrant community itself. So at first, when we start meeting these characters, they seem very, very supportive. So when the Sharafs first arrived in America, they come with very, very little. They have nothing, and it's the community that helps them out. They bring them furniture, they're bringing them food, they're looking after their kids, they're doing everything to support the family with not only food, furniture, but emotional advice and support. And the novel really captures very well how immigrant communities often become extended families for people who are trying to build their lives in a new country. But Sabat also shows that the pressure, the enormous pressure that comes with living in such a very, very close-knit world. Reputation matters, and people are constantly judging one another's parenting, their marriage, their children, all of their personal choices. The same community that protects you or that supports you initially becomes a source of gossip and shame and control to a certain extent. So this tension becomes especially visible through the character of Zora, who actually doesn't have a voice in the book, but everybody's talking about her. Zora is the family sheriff's, their daughter, their teenage daughter. And everybody is interpreting her life in very, very different ways. Some believe that she's given too much independence. She's so Americanized. She's, wearing jeans. She's flirting with boys. While others think that she's very, very vulnerable and she is under such control that she cannot cope. And what makes the novel really fascinating that all the conversations about Zora reveal more about the characters, the people themselves, than they actually do about Zora herself. The book explores the difficulty of raising children between 2 very different cultures, parents who want to preserve Afghan traditions and family honor, while younger generations struggle to balance all those expectations within American ideas about freedom and individuality. So, at the center of the novel, and this sort of is revealed very slowly, is a mystery surrounding Zora. Questions remain unanswered, perspectives conflict, and certainty always just feels out of reach. Rather than focusing only on solving the mystery, the novel examines how communities respond to tragedy, how grief can become tangled up with rumor, suspicion, and the need to protect appearances. So overall, Good People is an incredibly thoughtful, very emotionally layered, and deeply engaging book. I can't recommend it enough. It's both a mystery, but it's also a very sincere portrait of immigrant family life, exploring how communities can offer both belonging and support while also creating judgment and pressure. A great read alike is, I don't know how many of you have read A Place for Us by Fatima Fareen Mirza, about a Muslim family. Um, this book definitely reminded me of that particular work. Khaled Husseini, who wrote The Kite Runner, calls it a spectacular triumph and a long-awaited Afghan novel, and I can't agree with him more. It's truly, truly remarkable. So even if you pick it up and you look at the first page and you go, not for me, give it a try because you will be absolutely rewarded.
Okay, so we're going to change tacks a little bit and go off to a romance. So the first book I'm going to talk about is Paris Match by Kate Claiborne. Before I even picked up this book, I was already a huge fan of her. She wrote one of my favorite romances, Love Lettering. So when I heard about this one, I immediately was interested, and it completely lived up to my expectations. The story follows Layla Bailey, a doctor who travels to Paris for the wedding of her former sister-in-law. The complicated part is that Layla is recently divorced from her college sweetheart and brother of the bride. And the wedding takes place in the same city where she once honeymooned with him. So right away, there's an emotional tension between moving on and revisiting painful memories. While she's there, she begins spending time with Griffin, the groom's best man, who initially seems gruff and distant, but slowly begins to reveal himself to be thoughtful, loyal, and deeply caring. What I really loved about this book is how emotionally honest it is. This isn't just a fluffy romance about two people falling in love in Paris. It's really about identity, healing, and figuring out what you truly want out of life. Layla is trying to understand herself after her marriage ended, and Griffin is dealing with his own emotional and physical scars. Watching them slowly open up to each other feels incredibly genuine. The setting adds so much to the story as well. Kate Claiborne writes Paris so vividly that the city almost feels like another character. The cafes, streets, and quieter moments create a romantic atmosphere without ever feeling cliche. I also love how Kate Claiborne writes relationships. The romance is a slow burn, which personally is one of my favorite tropes because it lets the emotional connection build naturally. The chemistry between Layla and Griffin develops naturally, and their conversations and small moments together are just as important as the romantic scenes. And yes, because I know people always ask this about romance novel, the book does contain some steamy scenes. They are there, but never feel unnecessary. Kate Claiborne writes intimacy in a way that feels emotional and meaningful rather than included purely for shock value. Something else I really admire about this book is that it explores mature themes in a realistic way. It talks about divorce, expectations, self-worth, and making choices for your own happiness instead of trying to please everyone else. That emotional realism is what makes her book stand out to me compared to a lot of other romances. Overall, The Paris Match completely pulled me into the story and left me both emotional and smiling by the end. If you enjoy romance novels with strong character development, emotional depth, beautiful writing, and a truly memorable story, I highly recommend it. And if you end up loving this book, I would absolutely suggest reading Love Lettering too, because it's another fantastic example of why Kate Claiborne has become one of my favorite authors. My second book today is one that felt incredibly comforting and heartfelt to read. It's Hot Chocolate on Thursday by Michiko Ayama. I hope I said that right. If you enjoy quiet, character-driven stories that focus on human connection and everyday moments, then I really think this book is worth reading. Across a bridge beneath the cherry blossoms lies the Marble Cafe, where a woman writes in a notebook while a young waiter prepares her favorite hot drink. Both wonder about each other and about the lives of the customers and staff who frequent this charming little cafe hidden beneath the trees. Through simple moments, taking a walk along the river, cooking the perfect tamagoyaki, ordering hot chocolate, or even forgetting to remove nail polish, The book shows how everyday actions can lead to unexpected encounters that ultimately change someone's life. Hot Chocolate on Thursday is made up of interconnected stories centered around the Marble Cafe in Tokyo. Each chapter follows a different character struggling with loneliness, uncertainty, relationships, work, or self-confidence. What makes the book so special is the way all these stories slowly weave together. Characters who seem unrelated at first end up crossing paths in subtle and meaningful ways, creating a lovely sense of community and connection. One of the things I loved most about this book is how comforting it is. It's the kind of story you want to curl up with on a rainy day, which hopefully we don't get too many this summer. The cafe setting adds so much warmth to the atmosphere, and the descriptions of coffee, hot chocolate, and quiet conversations make the entire book feel cozy and calming. Even though the characters are dealing with difficult emotions, the tone of the story remains hopeful rather than heavy. I really appreciated the way the author writes about ordinary people and everyday life. Nothing dramatic or overly complicated has to happen for the story to feel meaningful. Instead, the book focuses on small moments, conversations, acts of kindness, and unexpected encounters, showing how those moments can quietly change someone's life. The emotional subtlety is one of the reasons the book stayed with me after I finished it. And another aspect that makes this book stand out is the structure. Because it's told through interconnected stories, each chapter introduces someone new while also slowly linking back to the previous characters. It almost feels like putting together pieces of a puzzle, and by the end, you can see how everyone's lives connect in ways that they may not even realize themselves. The writing style is beautiful in its simplicity. She writes in a gentle, thoughtful way that feels calming to read. I just called her she, but I'm not sure if it's a she. Mishiko Ayoma. Even when the story touches on loneliness or regret, there's always an underlying sense of hope and compassion. It's the kind of book that quietly reminds you how meaningful small acts of kindness can be. Another reason I think people would enjoy this book is how relatable it is. Even though the stories take place in Japan, the emotions feel universal. Almost everyone can relate to feeling lost at some point, wanting connection, or wondering if they're making the right choices in life. Because of that, the characters feel very real and easy to connect with. I would especially recommend this book to readers who enjoy cozy fiction. Overall, Hot Chocolate on Thursday is a warm, thoughtful, and quietly emotional book that left me comforted and hopeful. It's a reminder that even small interactions can have meaningful impact on people's lives. Okay, so the last book I'm going to talk about is Into the Blue by Emma Brody. This book completely surprised me in the best possible way. I went in expecting a romance, but ended up being so much more emotionally intense and unforgettable than I expected. It's also a Reese book club pick, which immediately caught my attention. The story follows AJ Graves, a teenager growing up in a small town who dreams of becoming a comedy writer for Saturday Night Live. One summer, while working at a video rental store, she meets Noah Drew, the mysterious and talented member of a famous acting family. The two bond over acting, storytelling, and a cult science fiction TV show that they both love. Their connection quickly becomes intense and life-changing. But then Noah suddenly disappears from her life without explanation. Years later, they reunite in New York City while working on a science fiction television project together, and all those unresolved feelings come rushing back. One of the things I love most about this book is how emotional it is. The relationship between AJ and Noah is huge and all-consuming in a way that reminds you of first love, but it's also messy and realistic. The story follows them across many years, so you really see how the relationship changes with them over time. I also thought the setting and atmosphere were unique. The book blends Hollywood acting, comedy, writing, fandom culture, and science fiction in an interesting way. There's this nostalgic feeling throughout the story because so much of it is tied to movies, television, and performance. It also feels cinematic while you're reading it. Another reason the book stood out to me is the chemistry between the characters. AJ and Noah have a connection that feels immediate and intense from the beginning, and the tension between them lasts throughout the whole story. There's so much yearning, emotional conflict, and slow burn romance woven through the story that it became impossible for me to stop reading. I also appreciated that the characters feel flawed and human. They made mistakes, they hurt each other, and struggle with difficult choices. Because of that, the story feels more real and emotional, powerful than a typical romance. What makes Into the Blue memorable to me is that it isn't just a love story. It's about dreams, timing, grief, identity, and what it means to truly know another person. It's emotional, dramatic, romantic, and heartbreaking all at once. Overall, I would recommend this book to anyone who likes emotional romances, second chance love stories, complicated characters, and books that stay with you long after you finish them. It's the kind of story that completely pulls you in and stays with you long after you finish it. Thank you.
So that marks the end of our book recommendations. But don't go, don't pack up. Not just yet. Give me 5 more minutes of your time. However, this year we wanted to close our program on a different note and give you, the audience members, a chance to exchange with your fellow audience members titles that you think would be really good summer reads. So we're going to take 2 seconds, hand out some of these special bookmarks, or I'll give them to you and you can pass them back. Maria's going to do it on that side. And if you can just write down 1 or 2 titles, or maybe even a few more if you have them, of something that you've read or you've heard about that you would love to share with someone else, and then exchange your list with the person sitting beside you. I know, no pressure. you you all thought you were going to come here and listen to us. Yes, but we can do that too. We can do that too. We can do that too. I thought, yes. And the idea obviously is to keep the momentum going and build your summer reading list for you. So you can use our picks, you can use each other's picks, and have a huge selection of titles to read over the summer. Or you can simply tell us what your favorite is of all the books you've heard us recommend today. Yes. Twice a year. We do in the summer and the fall. Yeah. Yeah. I know for my own sake, the book that I'm going to read is Danielle's Go Gentle. Yeah.
Okay, so for those who are interested in hearing what your librarians will also be reading this summer that other librarians have chosen, I think I will be reading Mary Benedict's Daughter of Egypt. Daughter of Egypt, Jennifer's pick. That one definitely appeals to me.
I'm really interested in reading Maria Semple's Go Gentle. I can't wait to read that one. And The Jilted Countess sounded really, really interesting.
So I read something different than what's on this list, but I have a stack of Japanese and Korean translations at home that are on my to read list. So if you need any of those, I can give you those titles.
And of course, Whistler.
Yeah. Don't miss out on Anne Patchett's Whistler, please.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions for us, we'd love to take them. Yeah.
Want to give her the...
Okay, my question is a question. In my experience as a reader, for example, I love Mary Benedict and her writing, but sometimes when you read the same author in a different book, it really is disappointing. Have you had that experience where you've read a book and loved it, and then try another book by the same author and feel disappointed?
general, I want to answer yes, because I think you read, especially if you read the first one or the second one and they're good, and then you pick up the third